The Orville, Episode 4, If the Stars Should Appear. At first, this episode has some slight resemblances to the original Star Trek episode, For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, and the Next Generation episode, The Masterpiece Society. But it does enough to make the story its own. The Orville discovers a gigantic structure adrift in space. It turns out this is a centuries-old world ship housing an ecosystem primarily designed as a pastoral valley, whose inhabitants are unaware of their true circumstance, believing that the world they know is all of existence. The massive biovessel's engines appear to be offline, and it is on course to collide with a star. The away team, consisting of Captain Mercer, Isaac, Dr. Finn, Alara, and Commander Kelly, is left on the vessel, thrust into a conflict between a dictatorial theocracy and a small segment of the population that believes there may be more to the universe and their past than the word of Dural, called Reformers, when the Orville is rushed away to the aid of another Union vessel under attack from the Krill. At this point, I'm thinking and hoping that the Krill will sort of morph into the Klingons of the original Star Trek series. That seems to be the vibe I'm getting from the relationship between the Krill and the Union so far. The away team is further segmented as Alara is shot and Commander Kelly is captured and tortured. While I won't spoil the scene-by-scene details of the episode in its entirety, I will say that the ending, although not entirely unsatisfying, strays from logic with the long isolated and indoctrinated society's reaction to the sudden collapse of their understanding of the universe, their introduction to the idea of night, with a sense of awe and acceptance and barely a hint of fear, confusion, and refusal to accept. It just falls a little too easily into the good guys win with no true consequences territory. The episode contains some interesting and humorous exchanges involving Isaac as he explores the elements of humanity in a form that, thankfully, is not a repeat of the desire to become human or reclaim humanity or individuality of, say, Data, Seven of Nine, or the Doctor. It also gives some continuing hints at the interpersonal relationships between the main cast. You're starting to get a better idea by the fourth episode in of who tends to talk to whom about what, where the bonds seem to be closer between certain characters. I feel that Bortus and Clyden are going to become the O'Briens of the Orville. While I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, it shows how the show's greatest strengths can highlight its weaknesses, and its continuous, obvious parallels to Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation bring a sense of familiarity and a passion for Roddenberry's vision that Discovery is woefully unable to comprehend. But it also means that those same elements that are good because they are like old Trek will also never favorably compare to those eras of Star Trek that it draws inspiration from. It's an odd dilemma where the Orville is giving me almost exactly what I want, but can't quite match the brilliance of the nostalgic memories it conjures. Oddly, part of what separates it from the 60s and 90s Star Trek, its style of humor and more realistic modern dialogue and banter, are the elements of the formula that I found to be the weakest in the past two episodes, especially in this episode, Episode 4, where I found some of the humor definitely worked, but some of the crude humor felt a little bit forced and out of place. Some of the jokes worked, but moments like the dick jokes and pretty much Norm Macdonald's character of Yaphet in its entirety seemed almost like juvenile invasions of a better script. I love the Orville for what it is, and while it may seem that I am a bit critical of some elements of this episode, I like it nearly as much as I liked the last few. It's just that the further I get into the show and it settles into its own groove, the more I worry about it having an identity crisis, struggling to figure out how much humor to include and what the nature of that humor should be, and how much it should cater to the Star Trek love affair Seth MacFarlane and much of the show's audience is ensconced in, or stray into its own unique territory. Balance will be the Orville's biggest hurdle. That and Fox's penchant for canceling or royally messing with sci-fi series, but I absolutely believe that if given a chance, it is a hurdle it can overcome, and I'm thoroughly enjoying what we've seen so far, and I believe that it will get better and better as the series goes on. I look forward to the next episode more than any other current TV show, and I'm already hoping we see an announcement for a second season renewal.